NMC Credit Quality. So we all know that this is a NMC Credit Point awarded presentation. So I would request everybody to put their name, not Galaxy XY or Apple 123 Banera. So kindly please log in with your name so that it's easy for us to apply for your credit points. And on this, I would like to welcome you all on behalf of NESOG as a scientific secretary of NESOG to today's first collaborated CME of NESOG and IRC RCOG 2021. As a medicos, we all are aware that our field is vast, ever-changing and challenging. COVID pandemic has further challenged us more. Past 2 years has been exceptional experience for all of us. All numbers, figures, statistic of COVID positive patient became our friends, family, loved and dear ones. We have our struggles and loss. Mass and PPE became our best friends, hand sanitizer, every household core. So many things changed, so did the way we treat our common cold changed. Today's program, Talk on Management of COVID in Pregnancy, is an attempt to help all of us overcome the difficult question we face in our new COVID positive era. So without delay, let me have this pleasure of welcoming and introducing our panelists today. We have with us our first panelist, Professor Dr. Shudha Sharma. She's a former Secretary of Ministry of Health and Population, Nepal. She's former Director of Maternity Hospital, former President NMA, NESOG, and SAFOG. She is currently Chairperson IRC RCOG with more than 40 years of dedication for service in health sector, uplifting health of people of Southeast Asia and other continents. Welcome, ma'am, as chairperson for today's program. Ma'am, can you wave your hand so that they know? Thank you, ma'am. Our second chairperson today is none other than Professor Dr. Ganesh Dangal. He is Academic Director, PEC Nepal, Kathmandu Model Hospital, member IRC RCOG, and currently President NESOG. Welcome, sir, as chairperson for today's program.
Thank you.
For co-chair, we have with us Dr. Yom Dua, Associate Professor, KIST Medical College and Teaching Hospital and General Secretary, NESOG. Welcome, sir, as co-chair for today's program. Dr. Yom, welcome. And finally, I would like to welcome our speaker for today, none other than Professor Dr. Chanda Karki Bhandari. Dr. Chanda has experience of more than 36 years in female health sector. She has dedicated more than 21 years in medical education and research. Former Senate member of KU and former executive member of Nepal Medical Council, she is also former board of director of KMC, Buranil Contra School and Citizen Bank. She is also former CEO and principal of KMC. Former President NESOG, author of more than 75 medical publications and recipient of prestigious awards like King Birendra, King Gyanendra, and President Vidya Bhandari Award and KMC Chairperson Award of Excellence. She is currently working as senior consultant in BNB Hospital. Welcome, ma'am, as speaker for today's CME. With this, may I request Professor Dr. Ganesh Dangal, President NESOG, for formal welcome speech.
Thank you, Dr. Smriti, for your nice introduction. And I would like to welcome you all in this August gathering on behalf of Nepal Society of Obstetrician and Gynecologist and on behalf of IRC, Royal College of Obstetrician and Gynecology. I would like to welcome you all in this evening's CME, which is going to be delivered by Professor Dr. Chanda Karki, and I think we'll learn more and we'll be wise after hearing all this. Thank you again, and without wasting much time, I would like to again thanks this NRN and all the participants here. And over to you, Dr. Smriti. Is there any problem, Dr. Smriti? So I think now Professor Dr. Shudha Sudha Sharma can welcome the gathering.
Thank you, Dr. Ganesh, and thank you, Smriti. It's such a wonderful day today. And like you said earlier, it is the first collaborative activity between the International Representative Committee of the Royal College of Obstetrician Gynecologists and NESOG. And NESOG is always a home for all of us. And thank you, NESOG, for this collaboration, which is the first IRC event in partnership with NESOG under the new kind of executive of IRC. I would like to remember and thank Dr. Dibashri Malla and Dr. Saraswati Pade for their previous contributions and for really taking IRC way ahead. But today's talk is special because we have a special speaker with us with all the years of experience, and we have Professor Dali and all our senior participants here. I would really like to welcome you all. And I can see that there are 35 participants already, including some of us, the speakers. But the topic is so important, you know, COVID in pregnancy, and Smriti has so eloquently highlighted what we suffered and what we gained in during the COVID time. You might wonder why I said the term gained, because, you know, we can see people from all over Nepal joining in this webinar right now. So I guess that's a blessing in disguise, which the COVID has brought and made us come closer together. So like Dr. Ganesh said, I would like to thank NESOG for hosting this, and the NREN, Research and Education Foundation, for supporting the collaborative activity, and everyone who is present here for your presence. And since this is such an important topic, I would like to hand over the mic back to Smriti, with a lot of thanks to you, Smriti, and Dr. Dua and everybody else, and Sabina, of course, who has been such a wonderful support, you know, preparing the flyer, sending out invitations, and, you know, bringing us all together. So thank you, everyone. And I can see every one of you. I wish I could name everyone quickly, but I will leave that for now, right? From Mamata, Chanda, Ganesh, NESOG, and Dr. Dali, Spriti, Anjali, Anjana, Ashmita, Balkumari, Bandana, and so many, you know, all the names, there are so many. So welcome each and every one of you. Thank you so much. And let's proceed. Spriti, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We hope that we can live up with our learning and sharing our knowledge experience forever. So with this, I'm sure, Chanda ma'am, the audience are eagerly waiting for your talk. Without any further delay, the platform is yours, ma'am.
Slide देखिन्छ? Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon भन्नु कि good evening भन्नु थाहा छैन यति. Anyway, good afternoon and namaste to all of you. And thank you very much, IRC Nepal, Nepal Society of OBGYN, Professor Dr. Sudha Sharma, Professor Dr. Ganesh Dangal, for this great opportunity to be here today. And let me take this opportunity to welcome all the viewers in this webinar on management of COVID-19 in pregnancy. Actually, COVID has affected everyone's life globally, but pregnant ladies and their families have additional concerns about their pregnancy and its outcome. Today, everyone is COVID expert, actually. I know you all are very well versed with various aspects of COVID by now. However, I'll focus my presentation on the status of COVID in Nepal, effect of COVID on pregnancy and fetus, as well as what we need to focus on antenatal, intrapartum, and postpartum care in COVID-infected or suspected women. See, if we look at the government data, you can see that almost 48 lakhs tests have been done so far, and 8,85,536 people are found to be infected, which is 21% of the total tested case. 11,123 are dead so far, with case fatality rate of 1.4%. Though we are very much scared of this condition, it gives some soothing feeling when the data shows that the total, out of total COVID positive patients, 96.31% usually recover, and only 2.2% of the people are having active infection, and case fatality rate, as I have already said, is 1.4%. And daily data published by Ministry of Health and Population shows that the young people from 21 to 60 years of age are affected the most. And we can see that the males are affected more than females, but we can see here, you can see in that pie diagram that 41% of the infected population are females of reproductive age group. Actually, I tried, but I could not find any publications or reports which, to know exactly how many pregnant ladies are infected in Nepal. But according to the Department of Health Service data, around 50 pregnant ladies have died of COVID so far. And we know that the first COVID death in Nepal was a young lady from Sindhu Palchok in her postpartum period. She expired at Dhulikhel Hospital. And we can see that the death rate, case fatality rate in Nepal is satisfactory till date in comparison to global and regional scenario. If you look at this graph, you can see that globally the case fatality rate is 2.1%. And if you talk about Southeast Asian region and India also, it's 1.5%. But in Nepal, case fatality rate, if you daily census from Ministry of Health and Population, it varies from 1.2 to 1.5%. I could trace one of the article written by Miss Rojita Adhikari, and it was published in the Guardian paper from UK. And it has stated that since the start of the pandemic, maternal deaths have soared. It stated that in the year before pandemic, that is before March 2020, the country had recorded only 51 maternal deaths, whereas between March 2020 and June 2021, that is during the period of lockdown, 258 women died as a result of pregnancy and childbirth during that time. And out of those deaths, 33 women had COVID-19 positivity. And similarly, neonatal deaths have also increased from 13 deaths per 1,000 live births before lockdown to 40 deaths per 1,000 live births during the first lockdown. And one of the study done by the government in one of the hospital, which was published in Kathmandu Post, actually, it stated that 13,189 women delivered babies in that hospital prior to lockdown, while the number was decreased by 7,165 during lockdown, which means that there was 50% reduction in delivery cases at that hospital. And another new study published in Lancet Global Health also stated that number of births in health institutions decreased by around half during the lockdown period compared to previous. Stillbirth rate also jumped to 21 per 1,000 births. That is almost 50% increase from 14 earlier in the same period. Institutional and neonatal mortality has also increased threefold from 13 per 1,000 live births prior to the lockdown to 40 during the lockdown. Let us now see how the COVID is affecting pregnancy in our country or globally also. I was going through some of the studies which was done during the earlier phase of the this pandemicity, And one of the study done in a cohort study done in China, and it was published in JAMA and other international journal in 2020. Out of all affected pregnant ladies, 85% were mildly affected. None of the women had died. All had delivered live babies with no documented cases of birth asphyxia. Breast milk, amniotic fluid, cord blood, and neonatal throat swab were found to be negative, and no more maternal deaths were reported. And the other study, it was done by Royal College of OBGYN and Royal College of Midwives in the UK. And they had studied 427 pregnant ladies. Majority of women who became severely well actually it was seen that majority of women who became severely ill were in the third trimester of pregnancy. And 0.49% of them needed admission. And out of them, 10% of them required intensive care service, which is more than found in the general population. But most of them, it seems, were elderly, overweight, or obese, or had some pre-existing conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. And they had recorded the death of 5 women, and it was not clear yet whether the virus was the cause of those deaths or not. And in a systematic review of 18 articles reporting on 108 pregnancies affected by COVID-19 infection, it was found that 2.7% of pregnant women had to be admitted to ICU, and there was 0.1% of intrauterine fetal demise and 0.1% of neonatal demise. And in the initial phase, there were few publications which stated that infection could increase the risk of venous thromboembolism and preterm labor, but they were not sure about the risk of vertical transmission that time. Now, recently, I have gone through almost 20 recent publications, and but this presentation is mainly based on, and many guidelines has come up now very clearly. So I have gone through the guidelines of WHO, ACOG, RCOG, Lancet, FOXI, and Good Clinical Practice Recommendation of India. And they have given very clear-cut instructions now, and the things have become more clearer now. And almost all the guidelines now state that pregnant ladies are at the same risk of contracting COVID infection as general population. They are not found to be at increased risk as suspected, but if they contract the disease and if they have certain comorbidities like heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, asthma, or if they are in immunocompromised conditions like HIV, SLE, then there will be increased risk of complications for them. And this pandemic has hugely affected the mental health of all the people, and the pregnant women are no exception. And they may require additional mental health support, as it is causing a lot of perinatal anxiety and depression, and incidents of domestic violence may also increase due to this pandemic. And it has reported to be domestic violence from various sectors. And if you go through these guidelines, you can they have clearly mentioned that there isn't any data, significant data suggesting increased risk of abortion or preterm labor due to COVID. Therefore, it is not an indication of termination of pregnancy also, because in the initial phase, many people terminated their pregnancy thinking because they were COVID positive. There isn't any significant evidence suggesting vertical transmission as well as teratogenicity due to COVID also. And none of the studies so far have detected COVID-19 virus in vaginal secretion or breast milk. Talking about specific obstetric management, taking a thorough history is always important. We should inquire about detailed travel history, history of exposure to infected people, about if they have any symptoms of COVID-19, if they are coming from any hotspot areas, or if they have any immunocompromised state they are suffering from. And clinical presentation remains same as of general population, with fever, cough, shortness of breath, GI symptoms, etc. And blood test, chest X-ray, CT scan, and echo are the mainstay of investigations. And blood test will reveal, most of the time the WBC seems to be normal, but there might be leukopenia, lymphopenia in 80% of the cases, mild thrombocytopenia, and CRP and D-dimer may be elevated in proportionately to the severity of the disease. DIC may develop over time, and there is incidences of increased ALT, AST, and occasional increase of alkaline phosphatase, and there might be mild elevation of the creatinine also. Anyway, RT-PCR is the investigation, the test for COVID, and it is found to be 60 to 80% sensitive. Therefore, a single negative report doesn't exclude COVID-19. If suspicion remains, ongoing isolation and retesting few days later should be considered. And it's very important that we need to do the counseling to these COVID-affected pregnant ladies, saying that they might be asymptomatic. Then they may have only mild symptoms sometimes, and most of them might get full recovery also from this COVID infection. But very few of them will develop severe symptoms and might need enhanced care. As far as obstetrics is concerned, we need to know that any suspected woman should be tested. And until the test results are available, she should be treated as confirmed COVID-19 and should be cared in pre-isolation ward. Another important concern is we should not delay any obstetric management waiting for COVID-19 test or test result. And the third thing is elective procedures like induction of labor, routine growth scans, and routine investigations might wait for some time and should be, aimed to, we should be reduced. They should be reduced to the minimum. As already stated, minimal antenatal visits should be planned. Antenatal care need to be tailored to minimum to 4 visits at 12 weeks, 20 weeks, 28 weeks, and 36 weeks of gestation. And additional antenatal visits may be planned at the discretion of the maternal care service care provider. And if woman has COVID-like symptoms, appointment can be deferred to a week and plan accordingly. And if the woman is self-quarantined, for such self-quarantined woman, appointments should be deferred for 14 days. COVID has taught us now that hospitals or care providers should develop the option of teleconsultation, and through it only needed cases will visit the hospital. Whenever a pregnant woman visits a facility for antenatal care, she should be examined on priority and segregated from the routine patients coming to the hospitals. We need to know that even if a woman is previously tested negative for COVID-19, and if the patients see presence with symptoms again, then COVID-19 should be retested, suspected, and if you suspect the COVID infection, naturally you have to retest them. And if suspected of COVID infection, and if she has to go to the hospital or any healthcare facility, then it's better if the woman uses their own vehicle, or in our setup, they can call telephone number 102 for COVID transport to reach to the hospital. And women should be counseled that if she tests positive for COVID-19 during pregnancy or immediately before delivery, then she shall have to deliver in a hospital where there is the facility for the COVID patients, or in better place, we might have some dedicated COVID facility, they might have to go there. And the key principles of antenatal care are actually, maintaining essential monitoring, promoting telemedicines and home care services, strengthening unit capacity, implementing effective screening and triaging at the facility. And while we are replanning and rescheduling antenatal care services, we need to realize that routine antenatal care is also essential and have to do it in person to detect common complications of pregnancy, such as preeclampsia, hemorrhage, gestational diabetes, and asymptomatic urine infection, etc. And many elements of antenatal care may require in-person assessment, in particular blood pressure and urine checks, measurement of fetal growth and blood tests, and facilities should create an environment to provide face-to-face consultations safely by arranging effective screening and triaging, and orienting and training the staffs, managing mask and recommended PPE, and providing hand washing and sanitizing facilities. And healthcare facilities should also build up the capacity of telemedicine, because it has the advantage of complying with social distancing measures and enabling a pregnant woman to have her family member or friend to join her in the process. In changing scenario, if we want to live with COVID, institutions have to think about provision of home visits too. But maternity staff attending homes should be very careful about being exposed to COVID-19, and they should adhere to strict infection control procedures, and they should be provided with appropriate PPE from the management side also. And definitely during the pandemic, we have already witnessed that maternity unit will have increased work, they will have changed tasks, and there will be fast changing evidences to practice. Therefore, to make the unit or the team effective, probably we need to interact with senior management team in the institute as frequently as possible, and then grow continuously and get stronger every day to manage conditions like COVID-19, which we have to do in a totally different scenario, and there is every day there is a new change in the scenario. And I don't know how far it is possible, but it will be safer if working pregnant woman gets a chance to work from home. And besides good infection prevention measures, they should keep a distance of at least 1 meter in various necessary interactions. And they should avoid non-essential travel. And if a travel is essential, it will be recommended, as I have already said, that they can use their private vehicle. And families should also avoid various cultural practices which are very common in our places. We think that we don't contract virus from our own people. The cultural practices like Nuaran, Pasnis, and so we have to minimize visitors to visit the mother and newborn after delivery. And anyway, most important thing for us is to ensure safe institution delivery for these women. And we have to think of the services in the rural areas also. Services in the rural areas are to be looked at closely. I think government authority at each local level should maintain a list of pregnant ladies who are due to deliver within the next 3 months and follow up them using existing machinery of our government, and then link them to the appropriate health facility where delivery will take place by a trained healthcare personnel. All district or local governments should identify. The other thing is they should identify and communicate to functional and adequately staffed COVID hospitals for serving these women. Because arranging transportation facility and ensuring availability of the dedicated ambulances for COVID and non-COVID patients at the district level is also equally important and equally challenging. Though all women, despite the pandemic, have a right to have a safe and positive childbirth experience, but during pandemic condition, there is a special importance of special COVID-related informed consent also. Informed consent, taking informed consent is very, very important that we have to remember, because medical legal cases are so much these days that it has become very difficult actually. So in addition to routine consent that we take, consent for the probable chances of COVID-19 infection while in hospital and its consequences should be included. It is also very important to minimize the number of people involved in any procedure of her care. the other thing I would like to highlight is COVID-19 infection should not dictate timing of delivery, except the cases where the maternal life is at risk. For those who got COVID infected in their early pregnancy, but now have recovered, there should not be any alteration. No alteration is needed to the usual timing of delivery. But for those women who got infected in their third trimester, it is reasonable to attempt to postpone delivery till they recover, provided no other medical indications arise. And while talking about intrapartum monitoring, besides strict monitoring of maternal and fetal well-being with partograph, we need to do periodic evaluation of the respiratory status, and oxygen saturation should be maintained at more than 94%. It is equally important to avoid prolonged labor, and early decision for cesarean section should be taken in case of prolonged labor, and we have to monitor indications for interventions. In COVID-infected patients, as already mentioned, mode of delivery should not be influenced by the presence of COVID-19. I repeat again, unless the woman's respiratory condition demands urgent delivery. COVID-19 is not an indication for cesarean section. An induction of labor and cesarean delivery should continue to be performed as indicated, before. While managing infected lady in labor, our aim should be to keep oxygen saturation to more than 94%. If the woman has signs of sepsis, we need to investigate and treat her as per guidance on sepsis and pregnancy, keeping in mind that active COVID-19 infection may also be a source of sepsis. Continuous electronic fetal monitoring in labor is recommended. And there is no evidence that epidural or spinal analgesia or anesthesia is contraindicated in presence of coronavirus. And epidural analgesia should therefore be recommended in labor to women with suspected confirmed COVID-19 patients to minimize the need for general anesthesia if urgent delivery is needed. And wearing PPE is a must when cesarean delivery or other operative procedure is advised. And individualized decisions should be made regarding shortening of the length of the second stage of labor with elective instrumental birth in a symptomatic woman who is becoming exhausted or hypoxic. Unfortunately, sometimes these patients continuously deteriorate in spite of all efforts, and they might need to be admitted in ICU. And we should know what are the conditions when the patient has to be shifted to ICU without any delay. So they have to be admitted to ICU if respiratory rate is more than 30 breaths per minute, if oxygen saturation falls less than 93 or at rest, or if there is more than 50% lesions progression within 24 to 48 hours in lungs, in lung imaging. If the CT scan or chest X-ray shows, this progression of lesion of more than 50%, probably we might have to transfer the patient to the ICU ward. And if the patient is in ICU and is in labor, hourly observations and monitoring is very, very essential. And the other thing we need to know is, if the patient is young, and young fit women can compensate for deterioration in respiratory function and are able to maintain normal oxygen saturation before they suddenly decompensate. That means if there is a rise in respiratory rate, even if the saturation are normal, it may indicate that deterioration in respiratory function has occurred, and we should be managing them by starting or increasing the oxygen flow. And radiographic investigations like CT chest is essential for the evaluation of patient with COVID-19, and it should be performed when indicated and not delayed due to fetal concern. Abdominal shielding can be used to protect the fetus as per normal protocols. And we should consider additional investigations also if needed, ECG, echo, etc., to do other diagnosis, because we should not assume that all fever, all pyrexia is due to COVID-19. Therefore, we should not forget to perform full sepsis screening whenever patient has a fever. And the frequency and suitability of fetal heart rate monitoring should be considered on an individual basis, taking into consideration the gestational age of the fetus and maternal condition. And regarding breastfeeding, people have different choices. If mother and baby have to have temporary separation, mothers who intend to breastfeed should be encouraged to express their breast milk to establish and maintain milk supply. And if possible, a dedicated breast pump should be provided to her. And prior to expressing breast milk, mothers should practice hand hygiene. After each pumping session, all parts of that come into contact with breast milk should be thoroughly washed, and the entire pump should be appropriately disinfected. And this expressed breast milk should be fed to the newborn by a healthy caregiver. And if a mother and newborn do room-in, if they stay together, the mother wishes to feed at the breast, and she should put on a face mask and practice hand hygiene before each feeding. And postpartum period should also be well monitored, not only for general factors like hemorrhage, infection, etc., but also for difficult conditions like postpartum depression, which is very, very common in COVID-infected mothers. And we need to ensure the availability of iron and calcium tablets for postnatal period. Breastfeeding practices has to be promoted with early initiation of breastfeeding, as I have already told. And of course, temporary isolation of mother and baby, if they have to do that, or if they want to breastfeed, they have to use the physical barriers as discussed already. If we talk about, as far as treatment of COVID is concerned, no specific treatment is currently available actually. For infected ladies in labor, supportive therapy is recommended, like rest, oxygen supplementation, fluid management, and nutritional care. And other drugs, as all of us know, that there are many drugs are being tried. There are antibiotics, antiretroviral therapy, drugs like hydroxyquine, chloroquine, immunoglobulin, plasma therapy, etc., etc. There are many drugs, but it's all been practiced on experimental basis, and they have no proven efficacy. A vaccine is the only relief today, and there are many vaccines. American, Chinese, Russian, Indian, everything is available in the market. And all the vaccines except Johnson & Johnson are given in 2 doses. And it's worth praising that NISOG has come forward to talk to the government, and has also issued a notice to the public that pregnant and breastfeeding women could also go for vaccination, and government should give priority and special care for this. And we can see every day in the social media, Dr. Ganesh is putting one notice about it. And when the patient has to be discharged, now if the patient has to be discharged at the time of discharge, besides all the usual instructions, mother and neonate are instructed to visit healthcare facilities only if it is urgent. That is, if there is fever, if there is respiratory symptoms, or if there is any other danger signs. And she should be told how to communicate with healthcare providers in case of emergency. Contraceptive suggestions and services are provided, and they should also offer, if you have available, the mental health services as they need it. Pandemics, we know that pandemics are coming in waves. Now with big peaks like shown in this picture with purple color in the picture, you can see. And we should aim to reduce the disease transmission by various possible means, and thereby reduce the number of overall cases and its negative health effects, and try to flatten the curve by keeping the cases as minimal as possible. And to flatten the curve, we need to prevent, we need to contain, and we need to mitigate the disease. To protect pregnant ladies, families and general population are also to be protected. And COVID is absolutely preventable if we practice safety measures like mask and vaccine. Disease can very well be contained if proper isolation, contact tracing, and quarantine rules are followed. And there are many proven interventions to mitigate the disease, like hand hygiene, social distancing, and environmental cleaning.
अनम्युट गर्नु पर्यो होला म्याम म्युट छ
ठिक छ
हजुर सुनिया छ स्लाइड फेरि सेयर गर्नु पर्यो
फेरि सेयर गर्नु पर्यो ठिक छ देखिन्छ
ठिकै छ म्याम हजुर
ठिक छ
ठिक छ
चलिरहेको छैन किन होला ओके
हजुर चलेछ अहिले
obstetric units should take into consideration that there is appropriate arrangement for isolation of pregnant patients who have confirmed COVID-19 or pre-isolation ward for those under investigations. Ongoing basic and refresher training is needed for all healthcare professionals to include, correct adherence to infection control practices. Sufficient and appropriate PPE supplies should be positioned at all points of care. That is very mandatory. And one thing is sure that no one is safe from the corona until everyone is safe. We all need to do our duties honestly from our respective places. Therefore, let us wear a mask, maintain a physical distance, maintain strict hygiene, and even if there is any respiratory symptoms, let us get medical attention. And this is very important for the service provider, caregiver, because if you are not healthy, you are not able to provide service to the people. And we have to learn to live this life now. I do not know till when. And these are the references I have gone through. And thank you for patient hearing. Stay safe and love life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I was waiting for the questions, but I guess everybody is so involved and engrossed in your presentation that I only got 2 questions, Ailesamma, ma'am. The first question is, are there any data collected in Nepal about how many people are positive with COVID? And if they are, then how many have recovered?
That I have already shown in my previous, first few slides. For the general population, every day Ministry of Health and Population has been giving the data. But for pregnant ladies, I didn't find any publications or any source which says that how many pregnant ladies are infected here. Otherwise, the recovery rate is 96%. It varies from 93 to 96% for the general population. For the pregnant ladies, I have not been able to. I rang Department of Health also, because they also don't have exact data as to how many pregnant ladies are exactly infected. But I came to know that 50 pregnant ladies have died of COVID positivity.
Thank you, ma'am. And then another question was complications of we are seeing it more now after the second wave has hit us, that there are so many complications that have started coming after they have become COVID positive, like lung fibrosis. Or are there any thing that you would want to say to pregnant females or complications or like how to deal?
As far as I have gone through all the guidelines, त्यसमा कहीँ त्यस्तो लङ्सको इन्फेक्सनको बारेमा भनेको छैन. But general populationमा, there is, post-COVID syndrome is there, which mainly hits your lungs, So there are respiratory problems for quite long time, exact data, I'm sorry, I will not be able to give on that. तर चाहिँ के भने post-COVID syndrome is very common for all, not only for pregnant ladies, and which mainly affects the respiratory systems. And if you look at the COVID positive syndrome भएको मान्छेहरूको यो respiratory normalization हुनलाई, it really is taking time these days, and the many deaths has occurred in the period when the patient had already become COVID negative भएको 2 weeks 3 weeks मा पनि deathहरू भएको देखिन्छ. This is not for, I'm not talking about the pregnancy, but for the general population.
Thank you, ma'am. Maybe our chair people would want to say something because not much questions are coming up. I guess Dr. Chanda's presentation was so clear that people don't have anything to ask. Oh, ma'am, I did get one question. Thromboprophylaxis ko barema pregnancy ma, what is the view?
इनिसियल मैले अघि भने इनिसियल फेजमा देखाएकोमा चाहिँ प्रेग्नेन्सीमा चाहिँ यो कोभिडले चाहिँ थ्रोम्बोइम्बोलिजम बढाउँछ भनेर केही डाटाहरू छ हैन तर अहिले पछिको गाइडलाइनहरूले चाहिँ थ्रोम्बोइम्बोलिजम बढाउँदैन नै भनेर लेखेको छ त्यो चाहिँ जेनरली जे थ्रोम्बोइम्बोलिजमको जसलाई चाहिँ प्रिभेन्टिभ प्रोफाइल्याक्सिस दिनुपर्छ रेगुलर अवस्थामा त्यही नै हो भन्ने कुरा भनेको छ त्यसमा चाहिँ COVID-19 छ भन्दैमा थ्रोम्बोप्रोफाइलेक्सिस गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने छैन हैन खाली one thing they have mentioned is if you are in isolation mobility कम हुन सक्छ त्यसको लागि चाहिँ मोबिलिटी चाहिँ even if you are in isolated place त्यहाँ अलिकति एम्बुलेसन चाहिँ गर्नुपर्छ भनेको छ because that might be one reason of increased thromboembolism in pregnant ladies which initial studies had shown भनेर एक्सप्लेन गरेको छ त्यहाँ
Thank you, ma'am. Ganesh sir, Sudha ma'am, do you have anything else to add on, sir, ma'am?
Azur, I think we must thank and congratulate Professor Chanda Karki for her excellent presentation. I think every thing was clear and it was very enlightening. She even touched the vaccines. अहिले हामीले नेसोक्न चाहिँ भ्याक्सिनलाई प्रायोरिटाइज गर्नुपर्छ भनेर गभर्नमेन्टको डिफ्रेन्ट फोरममा अहिले पनि लबी गरिरहेको छौँ र होपफुल्ली दे विल बी एबल टु एड्रेस दिस अल्सो थ्याङ्क यू सो मच
थ्याङ्क यू मेरो तर्फबाट पनि भन्नुपर्दाखेरि अहिले हामी यहाँ 50-51 जना भएर रहेछौँ पार्टिसिपेन्ट्स सो एकदमै राम्रो ग्यादरिङ भएको छ र डाक्टर चन्दाले धेरै कुराहरू प्रश्न पारिदिनु भयो अब हामीले यो लेसनलाई हामीले कसरी अगाडि बढाउने भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ मलाई लाग्छ हामी प्रत्येकले आफ्नो स्वास्थ्य संस्थामा हामीले गरिराखेको प्र्याक्टिसमा केही परिमार्जन गर्नुपर्ने रहेछ कि जस्तो राम्रो ट्रायज र सस्पेक्टेड केसहरूलाई अलिकति आइसोलेसनको प्रोभिजन बट्टा गर्नु पर्यो अनि नत्र भने युजुअल म्यानेजमेन्ट त्यसमा सस्पेक्टेड र नन सस्पेक्टेड हेल्थी वुमेनलाई मिक्स गर्नलाई चाहिँ अलिकति खतरा हुन्छ भन्ने कुरा भयो र सेल्फ प्रोटेक्सन पनि ठुलो कुरा भयो त्यसकारण यो हिसाबले हामीले आफ्नो सबैले हामीले हाम्रो आफ्नो वर्क प्लेसलाई क्रिटिकली रिभ्यू गरौँ एउटा एस्पेक्ट सेकेन्ड एस्पेक्ट चाहिँ साँच्चै पनि नेपाल सरकारले पनि गर्भवती महिलाहरू कतिजना कोभिड पोजिटिभ छन् भन्ने डाटा छैन त्यो जुन आर्टिकल साइट गर्नुभयो ल्यान्सेटको त्यो आशिष केसी भन्ने हाम्रो एकजना डाक्टरले लेख्नु भएको आर्टिकल थियो त्यो बेलामा त्यो आर्टिकलले प्रश्न के देखाएको थियो भने आशिषको त्यो अनगोइङ आशिषको संस्थाको भनौँ अनगोइङ रिसर्च थियो विभिन्न अस्पतालहरूमा अनि त्यसमा भएका महिलाहरूमा डाटा पुल गरेर उसले कोभिड मात्रैले होइन कि कोभिड भएको बेलामा कसरी महिलाहरूको मृत्यु भएको छ भन्ने कुराको हेर्दाखेरि अटेन्डेन्स पनि घटेको एन्टिनेटल लेबर इन्स्टिट्युसनल डेलिभरी र मृत्यु दर पनि बढेको थियो त्यो बेलामा एक्चुअली भन्यो भने अर्को एउटा आर्टिकल यहाँ आएको छ नेपाली अखबारमा र फेसबुकहरूमा पनि मन्त्रालयमा बस्ने जिम्मेवार पदमा भएको डाक्टरले पनि त्यो आशिषको डाटा गलत हो हामीले एकदम राम्रो भइरहेछ मान्छेहरू मरेको छैन भन्ने पनि डाटा आएको थियो विच इज नट ट्रु पछि गएर फेरि उहाँहरूले नै आफ्नो खण्डन पनि निकाल्नुभयो ए साँच्चै पनि मातृमृत्यु बढेको छ अब हाम्रो सस्टेनेबल डेभलपमेन्ट गोल अचिभ गर्ने सन्दर्भमा हाम्रो मातृमृत्यु बढ्दै गएको छ भनेपछि हाम्रो चुनौती थपिएको छ यसमा हाम्रो अब्स्टेट्रिक प्र्याक्टिस भित्र अस्पताल आइसकेपछिको त एउटा कुरा भयो तर हामीसँग यहाँ कतिपय डाक्टरहरू अहिले जिल्लामा काम गर्ने कैलालीको जोडिनुमा देखेँ विराटनगरको जोडिनुमा देखेँ बुटोलको जोडिनुमा देखेँ उहाँहरू सबैजनालाई म एउटै अनुरोध के गर्न चाहन्छु भने हाम्रो महिलाहरूलाई खास गरी बन्दको बेलामा ट्रान्सपोर्टहरू नपाउने र सरकारले पनि ढ्याक्क बन्द गरिदिएको छ वैकल्पिक व्यवस्थाहरूको सूचना प्रत्यक्ष दिएको छैन त्यसले गर्दाखेरि कसरी आइपुग्ने भन्ने कुरा भयो अब हामीले यहाँ प्राइभेट भेहिकलहरूमा आऊ भन्ने कुराहरू त राख्छौँ तर त्यो चाहिँ कस्तो हो भने विदेशमा भए मान्छेको प्राइभेट भेहिकल पनि ओन गर्छन् नि, हाम्रो त प्राइभेट भेहिकलको ओनरसिप एकदमै कम छ र त्यो सम्भावनाहरू धेरै कम छ। त्यसकारण वैकल्पिक यातायातका साधनहरू त्यसको व्यवस्थापन पनि कसरी गर्ने भन्ने कुरा हो। र अहिले चाहिँ यो टेलिमेडिसिनको प्रयोग अझ बढाउनु पर्छ जस्तो लाग्यो मलाई। र सबभन्दा ठुलो चिन्ताको विषय आई डोन्ट नो लुम्बिनीको डाक्टर साहब जोड्नु भएको छ, उहाँलाई पनि यो प्रश्न मैले राखेँ। अहिले के छ भने हाम्रो पहिला प्रोभिन्सियल हस्पिटलहरूमा यो जिल्ला जनस्वास्थ्य कार्यालयबाट जिल्ला जनस्वास्थ्यको तर्फको नर्सहरू गएर त्यो एन्टिनेटल क्लिनिक मेटर्नल क्लिनिकहरू चाहिँ एमसिएच क्लिनिक भनेर जिल्ला जनस्वास्थ्यको स्टाफले चलाउँथ्यो कि अस्पतालको स्टाफले चलाउँदैन थियो। अहिले हाम्रो जिल्लाको दरबन्दीहरू हटेको भएपछि त्यो एमसिएच क्लिनिक नै छैन अरे ठुल्ठुलो अस्पतालहरूमा। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि रुटिन एन्टिनेटल पनि हाम्रा यो प्रादेशिक अस्पतालहरूमा नभइराखेको अवस्था रहेछ र त्यो गाइनोकोलोजिस्टको रुटिनमा एन्टिनेटल ओपिडीमा आउने त्यो चाहिँ रेगुलर ओपिडी पनि छैन। त्यसले गर्दा एज इट इज हाम्रो ठुल्ठुला अस्पतालहरूमा केयर सफर गरेको, त्यसमा पनि कोभिडले सफर गरेको हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ हाम्रो बाहिर जिल्लामा जति काम गर्ने हुनुहुन्छ र हामी नेसोगले पनि एउटा सशक्त रूपमा साँच्चै भन्यो भने एउटा अध्ययन पनि गर्न जरुरी जस्तो लाग्यो मलाई। यो प्रोभिन्सियल हस्पिटलहरूको अवस्था एन्टिनेटल केयरको सन्दर्भमा के रहेछ र कोभिडले कसरी अफेक्ट गर्यो र महिलाहरू किन आइपुगेनन् र तथ्याङ्क के हो त भनेर हामीले अलिकति दबाबै पनि दिनुपर्छ। मैले चाहिँ अस्ति एनएमएको फोरमहरूमा पनि यस्ता कुराहरू अलिक सशक्त रूपमा उठ्ला भन्ने अपेक्षा गरेको थिएँ। अब कति सशक्त उठ्यो थाहा भएन। डाक्टर गणेशको भनाइलाई लिएर मन्त्रालयमा पनि मैले त आफ्नो बोल्ने हिसाबले धेरैचोटि भनेको छु गर्भवती महिलाहरूको लागि खोपको व्यवस्था, तर त्यो पनि कार्यान्वयनमा गइसकेको छैन। डाक्टर बिच्छालाई नै भेटेर पनि भनेको हो। अब विभिन्न कुरा होला नि त्यहाँ, तर यस्ता कुरामा चाहिँ हामी लाग्नुपर्छ। गर्भवती महिलाको तथ्याङ्कमा, उनीहरूको एन्टिनेटल क्लिनिकको पहुँचमा, उनीहरूलाई यातायातका साधनको व्यवस्थापनमा, यस्ता कुराहरूमा चाहिँ हामी सबैजना मिलेर अझ आवाज हाम्रो सशक्त गरौँ भन्न म चाहन्छु। समग्रमा डाक्टर चन्दाले धेरै राम्रोसँग धेरै मेहनत गरेर यत्रो स्लाइडहरू बनाएर राम्रा स्लाइडहरू त्यो पनि प्रेजेन्ट गरिदिनु भयो, त्यसको लागि धेरै 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 धन्यवाद। डाक्टर स्मृतिले एकदमै राम्रोसँग सञ्चालन गरिदिनु भयो, ठ्याक्कै टाइममा पनि सकाइदिनु भएको छ, त्यसको लागि पनि धेरै धन्यवाद। र डाक्टर गणेशलाई नेसोगको पार्टनरसिपको लागि र उहाँको नेतृत्वको लागि र उहाँले महिलाहरूको हकमा उठाउनु भएको आवाजको लागि पनि धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद। र यहाँ जोडिनु भएको हाम्रो वरिष्ठ डाक्टर दली लगायत सबैजनालाई हार्दिक धन्यवाद भन्न चाहन्छु। सायद डाक्टर दलीले हात उठाइराख्नु भएको छ। स्मृति, तपाईँलाई ओभर टु यू। थ्याङ्क यू।
Ma'am, please go ahead. Yes, ma'am, please.
So, first, I would like to congratulate Professor Sudha Sharma and Professor Ganesh Dangal for a pioneer webinar meeting with RCOG and the NESOC. Upon NESOC, you all know my affection and त्यसको लागि त मैले भन्नै पर्दैन। र आज यो दिनमा यो साँझमा यो हेर्न पाउँदाखेरि अब भगवानले धन्यवाद दिन्छु कि मलाई यो हेर्ने है। र तपाईँहरूले धेरैको ध्यान, कङ्ग्रेचुलेसन डाक्टर चन्दा फर भेरी इलाबोरेटिभ पोइन्ट तपाईँले एकदम राम्रो भयो। एन्ड दिस मिटिङ अहिले अब तपाईँहरूलाई त धेरै थाहा छ है। अब त म त लकडाउनमा बसिरहेको छु, घरैमा बसिरहेको छु। अल आई हियर इज लिटल न्युज दिस वे। अब पक्षीले पनि धेरै राम्रो काम गरेको छ। भुटानले पनि एम्बुलेन्सै लिएर चाहिने एन्टिनेटल डेलिभरिजहरू गरेको छ। स्मल प्लेस है भुटानको त एकदम स्यापक मिटिङ अस्ति सुराले भन्नुभएको यस स्थितिमा पनि यो कुराहरू आएको थियो होइन सुरा, जुन तपाईँ पेन जोइन द्याट स्यापक मिटिङ। त्यस कारण अब हामीले अरू केही नभए पनि अहिले 20देखि ल्याएको 2021 22मा कमसेकम हरेक हस्पिटल्सहरूमा प्रोभिन्सियल त अलि तपाईँले हाइलाइट गरिहाल्नुभयो। त्यस्तै अब जसरी अब भनौँ न एनएमसी केएमसी अल दिस हस्पिटल म्याटर हाम्रो त्यत्रो ठुलो छ होइन, यिनीहरूमै पनि इन्फेक्टेड भयो, त्यो पनि पत्ता लगाउन सकिन्छ। र अर्को आई वाज रियली इन्ट्रेस्टेड, अहिले त आजकल हामीले कहाँ धेरै आइबिएफ सेन्टर्सहरू बनिसक्यो होइन, ह्याभ दे डन र उनीहरूकोबाट प्रेग्नेन्टहरू कति भयो त्यो पनि डाटाहरू पाउनु पाए राम्रो होला जस्तो भयो। दिस इज माई स्मल थट। थ्याङ्क यू फर गिभिङ मी द अपर्च्युनिटी। थ्याङ्क यू एन्ड थ्याङ्क यू सुधा फर यर
Thank you, ma'am.
हाइबर
Sudha ma'am को question को answer पनि
more fellows from Nepal under your chairmanship and more fellows getting to get out the meetings. Thank you very much, Sudha. Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Dolly, ma'am. Thank you for always being there for us as our back pillar, ma'am. Sudha ma'am ko question about MCH clinic or start huncha ki hudaina bhanera Lumbini Province Hospital bara answer aisakya cha, ma'am. So they are starting their MCH clinic with their own staff, ma'am.
Good.
Okay. Right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And with this, what is learning has of you? It's been a pleasure for me to host this elite panel and all of you audience under one platform. I take a leave from you all. Happy Dasai and Tihar in advance from Nesok family to all of you and your family. We all are one big extended family. With this, I come to the end for our formal closing and vote of thanks. I would like to welcome Dr. Yam Dua, General Secretary NESOC, for formal vote of thanks. Thank you very much. Yam, sir.
Ajur. Good evening and namaste to all the respected seniors and dear colleagues. I am Dr. Yam Dua, Secretary General of the Society of Obstetrics Gynecology of Nepal. अब यत्रो दिग्गज व्यक्तित्वहरुको अगाडि vote of thanks भन्न पनि म अलिकति नर्भस जस्तो भएको छु. So it's a privilege for me to propose a vote of thanks on this excellent webinar. First and foremost, I would like to thank Chairperson and the President of NESOC, Professor Ganesh Dangal, who despite of his busy schedule, has found time to grace this webinar. I also express my heartfelt thanks to respected ma'am, Professor Sudha Sharma, Chairperson, International Representative Committee, RCOG, and past President. She is my respected teachers. Because of her, I am one of the gynecologists of this Nepal. So I would like to thank you so much, ma'am. I also express my heartfelt thanks to respected ma'am, Dr. Chanda Karki, today's speaker of the program. She is also a member IRC, RCOG, and past president of various esteemed organizations. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your enlightening presentation, which has really enlightened us about the COVID in pregnancy. I would like to thank our sponsor, Nepal Research and Education Network, NREN, for providing us Zoom platform for this webinar. I would like to thank Dr. Smriti Maske, moderator of today's webinar, for such a smooth moderation. I also would like to thank Sabina ji, our office secretary, for untiring effort to make this webinar a grand success. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the respected seniors, Sanmaya ma'am, and other seniors and all the colleagues who has participated in this webinar, without whom this webinar would not have been a success. Finally, I would like to thank you all. Thank you once again. Thank you so much.